The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the rolling fields of Iowa. The land stretched endlessly, its once lush green crops now dry and lifeless. The sound of the wind rustling through the brittle corn stalks felt more like a whisper of defeat than a sign of life. Standing on the worn wooden porch of his farmhouse, John Miller gripped a letter in his rough, calloused hands. His fingers trembled as he read it again, even though he already knew what it said by heart. Foreclosure notice. The bank had made their decision. He had 7 days to vacate. He let out a slow breath, his eyes scanning the land that had been in his family for 3 generations. His father had plowed these fields, his grandfather before him. And now it would be taken away, sold off to the highest bidder. His wife, Mary, stepped beside him, her expression filled with worry. "John, we're out of options." John sighed. "I know." For years, he had fought tooth and nail to keep the farm afloat. Rising costs, new government regulations, and massive corporate farms swallowing up small, independent farmers like him. It was an impossible battle. They had taken out loans to keep things running, but the numbers just didn't add up anymore. $250,000 in debt. No way out. As the weight of it all threatened to crush him, a distant rumbling caught his attention. John looked up, narrowing his eyes at the cloud of dust rising from the long dirt road leading to his property. A black SUV was speeding toward them, its polished exterior looking almost out of place in the rural landscape. No one came out here unless they had a reason. The vehicle rolled to a stop in front of the house. The engine shut off. The driver's door opened, and out stepped a man. John's breath caught in his throat. There, standing before him, in a dark suit and signature red tie, was Donald Trump. What the hell is Donald Trump doing here? John felt his heart hammering in his chest. Donald Trump? Here? On his farm? He barely had time to process the moment before Trump strode toward him with his familiar confidence, extending a hand. "John, heard you were having some trouble." John hesitated before shaking it. Trump's grip was strong, commanding. The man exuded the same presence John had seen on TV 1,000 times, but standing in front of him, it was even more intense. "Mr. Trump," John stammered, What are you doing here?" Trump smirked. "Well, John, let's just say I keep an eye on what's happening to the hardworking people of this country, and I don't like what I'm seeing." John exchanged a stunned glance with Mary, who looked just as baffled as he felt. You know about my farm?" Trump nodded. "Damn right I do. You've been fighting, but the system is rigged against guys like you." John ran a hand over his stubbled jaw. "Mr. Trump, I appreciate your words, but words don't fix this." He lifted the foreclosure notice. "The bank has already decided. Next week, this place won't be mine anymore." Trump took the paper from John, glanced at it, and shook his head. "See, that's where you're wrong." He turned to the SUV, motioning toward one of his aides. A young man in a crisp suit rushed forward, carrying a thick folder of documents. Trump took it, flipping through the pages. Then, with the same casual tone he used when announcing billion-dollar deals, he said something that knocked the air out of John's lungs. "As of this morning, John, you don't owe the bank a damn thing." "Say that again?" John felt like the ground beneath him had shifted. His head spun. I don't understand." Trump handed him the folder. "I bought your debt, every last cent of it, and I forgave it." John's knees nearly buckled. $250,000. Gone. Just like that. Mary let out a choked gasp, her hands flying to her mouth. You did what?" John's voice cracked. Trump smirked. "I don't like seeing good people get screwed over, John. You're a farmer. You feed this country. You should be celebrated, not thrown to the wolves." John's hands shook as he flipped through the pages. Paid in full. He turned to Trump, his eyes shining with disbelief and gratitude. "Mr. Trump, I don't know what to say." Trump clapped him on the back, grinning. "Don't say anything. Just keep doing what you do best. Grow, build, feed America." Mary sobbed openly, throwing her arms around Trump, tears soaking into his suit jacket. Thank you so much." Trump patted her back gently. "You don't have to thank me. You earned this." John looked up at the sky. his eyes glistening. His farm was saved. His family's legacy would live on. But just as he turned to thank Trump again, he noticed something in the former president's expression. Something that told him this wasn't just about him. Trump wasn't done. The news spread like wildfire. By the next morning, John Miller's farm, once an anonymous stretch of struggling land in the heart of Iowa, was at the center of a national story. Reporters, news vans, and cameras flocked to the property, eager to confirm whether the unbelievable was true. Donald Trump pays off farmers' debt. The media can't believe it. One family's life changed forever, thanks to Trump. This is the move that has everyone talking. John stood on his porch, still gripping the documents Trump had handed him. The debt that had haunted him for years had vanished overnight. His farm, his family's legacy, was safe. And now, as microphones were shoved in his face, John was being asked the one question everyone wanted to know. Why do you think Donald Trump helped you? John took a deep breath and looked directly into the cameras. Because he cares. Because he actually does something instead of just talking. Because no one else would. A liberal journalist at the front raised her hand. Mr. Miller, do you think this was just a publicity stunt? John's jaw tightened. Let me tell you something. I've had politicians promise things my whole life. I've heard all the speeches. But this wasn't a speech. This was action. And that's more than I can say for most of the people in Washington. From the side, Trump smirked, arms crossed, clearly enjoying the moment. Damn right. The journalist shifted uncomfortably. But Mr. Trump, what do you say to critics who claim that helping one farmer doesn't fix the bigger problem? Trump stepped forward, straightening his tie. That's the difference between me and the other guys. I don't just talk about problems. I fix them. He turned toward the cameras. And I didn't come here just to save one farm. The murmurs grew louder. The journalist leaned in. I came here to start something bigger. Trump signaled to an aide, who handed him a new stack of documents. Today, I'm launching the America's Heartland Fund, a nationwide initiative to help struggling farmers just like John. Gasps rippled through the crowd. John's jaw nearly hit the ground. Wait, what? Trump continued. We're going to fight back against the government red tape and corporate greed that's killing America's farms. And we're going to do it fast. Mary covered her mouth, eyes wide with disbelief. A reporter stammered, Mr. Trump, how do you plan to fund this? Trump grinned. Let's just say I know a few people who love America's farmers. Within hours, donations to America's Heartland Fund skyrocketed. Farmers from across the country reached out, sharing their struggles. Some offered their help. Others asked how they could apply for assistance. And even Trump's biggest critics were forced to admit, like it or not, Trump just made a real impact. Social media erupted. This is why people love Trump. He actually cares about the working class. Whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny this is an incredible move. Of course, the media is trying to spin this. They can't stand seeing Trump actually helping Americans. Meanwhile, a well-known liberal pundit took to the airwaves to dismiss the act. This is a publicity stunt, a one-time event that doesn't fix the larger issues farmers face. But the moment she finished speaking, John Miller's response aired. Maybe it doesn't fix everything, but it fixed my farm. And if you're going to criticize someone for helping, maybe you should ask yourself, what have you done for struggling farmers? Even the news anchor shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. As the cameras kept rolling, Trump turned back to John. Now let's talk about your farm, John. John blinked. My farm? Trump nodded. You're not just keeping it, you're going to expand it. John's legs almost gave out as Trump handed him yet another document, this one containing a grant to modernize and expand his farm. Tears welled in Mary's eyes. John, a man who had spent his entire life struggling to keep his land afloat, had never expected something like this. Trump patted him on the back. You're the first, John, but you won't be the last. Just as John was about to thank him again, a loud cheer erupted from behind the crowd. Neighbors, fellow farmers, and even local business owners had started gathering, waving American flags and chanting, Trump, Trump, Trump. It was a sight John would never forget. His neighbors, who had also been struggling, were seeing hope for the first time in years. Trump turned to the crowd, raising his hand. Ladies and gentlemen, This is just the beginning. We're going to save American farms, and we're going to do it the right way. We're taking back control, and we're going to win." The crowd erupted in applause. A local farmer in his 60s, his face lined with years of hard work, walked up to Trump and removed his cap. His voice cracked with emotion. "Mr. Trump, I just want to say thank you. No one's ever fought for us like this before." Trump clasped the man's shoulder. "That's because the people in Washington don't know what it's like to work hard anymore. But I do, and I'll never forget the people who built this country." John's heart swelled with emotion as he looked at his fellow farmers, many of whom had been on the brink of losing everything, just like he had been. But now there was hope. A week later, John Miller stood at his farm, watching the sun set over the fields he had nearly lost. His land was still his legacy was intact, and it was all because one man had shown up and took action when no one else did. With a deep breath, he turned to the camera and smiled. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing. When Trump says he's going to help, he means it." Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire and challenge us to grow. What would you have done if you were in his shoes? Let us know in the comments below.